I've recently published the book Play to Potential, published by Penguin. And in the book, I talk about the framework FLAVOUR that we can use to lead a multidimensional life. And in one of the chapters of the book, I profile 6 different people who I believe are exemplars of leading a flavorful life. One of them is my friend Sumeet Mehta, who I've known for 27 years. Sumeet is the co-founder and CEO of LEAD, a school tech company, and now is worth more than $1 billion. First things first, I'm deeply grateful for Sumeet because he was the one who actually galvanized my self-awareness journey when he introduced me to the Landmark Forum many years back. A couple of things strike me about Sumeet's journey. One is about how he made the transition from a career in P&G in Singapore to what he does now. And I noticed that very often when people climb a mountain, there's a lot of celebration of success of the climbing of the mountain, but there's not enough research about how people behave when they are at the foothills of the mountain. Sumeet in this conversation talks about how he was at P&G in Singapore and then decided to take a sabbatical, then try a bunch of different things, and eventually leaned into what his heart told him, which was education. So his approach is often a textbook approach to what I tell people when I'm coaching them, to pause and then reinvent yourself. Because it's hard to do that when you're running at 60 kilometers per hour. Second, I also find it fascinating that so much of who we are is actually encoded in our childhood. When I work with leaders, I often ask them to do an archaeological survey of their childhood. And when you look at how Sumeet reflects on his father's inspiration as a teacher and what he's now doing as a co-founder at LEAD, it's not difficult to see what the similarities are and where some of the seeds might have been sown. Without further ado, let's dive into the conversation with Sumeet Mehta. Hey Sumeet, thank you so much for making the time for this series on the Play to Potential around flavor. Really excited to be talking to you.
Thanks, Deepak. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
And I know we've crossed paths over the last 25 years. It's lovely to sort of sit in this format and formally discuss our lives and journeys. But maybe just for the purpose of listeners and viewers who are tuning in, Sumeet, it'll be helpful if you can share a little bit of context around where you are, right? Just your professional context, personal context. I think it'll help people understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, see, I think personally, I'm a father of 2. My elder one is 16 and my younger one is 14. So we are a household of 2 teenage kids. And professionally, me and my co-founder, I think we've taken this audacious goal of trying to transform India one school at a time via my work as the co-founder and CEO of LEAD. I think fundamentally, I believe that I would be able to leave this world a better place than I inherited if I can help children become what we say as capable adults, responsible citizens, and good human beings through a joyful schooling experience. And I feel compelled to do this work in India because I think I love this country. So that's where I've chosen to do this. And yeah, so basically those are the 2 things that I contribute, like spend most of my time on.
Wow. Many strands to pick here. Country, joyful education. This is what inspires me. We'll probably come back to this, peeling this later in the conversation, Sumeet. But I find that very often a lot of who we are and what we become and what we do is guided by our early years. If you can talk a little bit about maybe your formative years for 15, 20 years, parental influences. Talk to us a little bit about how your operating system might have gotten forged in those years.
Yeah, I think so. I'll tell you a nugget, and it had not hit me. But Smita asked me the other day. One of our batchmates is traveling to Bombay, boxer, right? So she was like, "Who amongst your friends came from a large city?" And I looked back and I realized that most of my friends have come from small towns. And I had never thought about it, but I think it just kind of happened that the stories that attracted me and the stories to which I was attracted were all people who had like similar journeys of moving from a small town,
Hmm.
facing all the challenges that are there when we move from a small town to a large town, and I think becoming like band of brothers, sisters, whatever you call it, through that. So I grew up in a small town, and I think it has shaped me in a lot of ways. And I'll talk about it. I'll talk about how. Uh, but yeah, growing up in a small town
Which
was
one? Which town was this? The
I grew
Pathankot,
up in
right?
Pathankot,
Hmm.
and I think till the age of about 16, uh, it was very blissful. Like I didn't have an idea of what was outside Pathankot. Uh,
Hmm.
and I was doing well in studies, I was doing well in everything. So there was, I mean, I had not experienced inadequacy till I was in Pathankot.
Hmm.
And then when I went to Chandigarh, I was suddenly hit by this realization that I had to earn my right to be included in
Hmm.
things.
This is in
Uh,
your undergrad, huh?
this is in my
Chandigarh.
engineering college, yeah.
Hmm.
And then I think in a way, it got repeated all over again when I went to IIM Ahmedabad, where people had come from a Delhi or a Bombay, and I saw people doing high fives because they were in the same group discussion, personal interview, and test prep classes. And I realized that I had been pretty naive because I had taken this correspondence course from IMS and gotten
Same
into
here.
IMS. So
Same
uh,
here. I can I can relate to all these sentiments. Correct.
yeah, and then when I went to Singapore, I think I- that's I mean, so I had carried a sense of unfairness that because I had grown up in a small town, it wasn't fair. We had never the same access to resources, and therefore, in some way, I wanted to make it right uh,
Hmm.
because I hadn't got it. And I think that's a thread maybe which now shows up in what I do. Uh,
Hmm.
the other big influence growing up has been my father. I think uh, he was a brilliant teacher, and one of my earliest memories is that I used to accompany him to like the market to buy stuff, and random people would get off their scooters, stop there, come out and touch his feet.
Wow.
uh, and they'll be like, "Sir, I was in your class 20 years back, 15 years back, you said this."
What would he teach? What subject did he teach?
He used to teach English, but and then I got the chance to be in his classroom as a student,
Hmm.
and I saw like how a person can bring any topic alive because they're so consumed by it. Like I remember he taught us this chapter, the gift of Magi, and yeah, I mean, he would just bring the story alive because he was so into it. I remember him narrating a verse called, "Oh, my love, like a red, red rose that newly sprung in June." And then he asked, we were in Punjab, right? Don't you find it odd that a person is using June as like a romantic thing? यहाँ पे तो इतनी गर्मी है. But if you go to England, June is like a really good season. And for somebody sitting in Pathankot, like England was, but he would
Hmm.
transport us. He would us, matlab, his students, and the magic of a great teacher. I think,
Hmm.
and I don't think I realized it then, but I was like I was an audience to just
Hmm.
see that. Uh, and the other thing I think, so I saw what a teacher could do growing up, and the other thing he did was he used to say some things which have stuck with me. Like one day he told me that we never show your Janam Kundli to anyone. And I was like, and I like it wasn't important for me, right?
Hmm.
But he said we don't because I think somebody told us that you are born to do something big. Now, as a child, when somebody says that you're born to do something big, right? I think you just start expecting a lot more from yourself.
Hmm.
I remember, and these are verbatims that he's told me 40 years later, they are still alive in my head. Like one day he came and he told me, we were sitting on a terrace, and I was the youngest. My sister is like 8 years elder to me, and he gave us a paragraph to write in English. We were sitting in summers on the terrace, and I wrote, and he told me, yours is the best out of the three. I've never seen a student like you. Now he might have said that in that moment, but it was like a big thing. So the the confidence that he gave me to be able to do what I wanted,
Hmm.
I think was priceless.
Hmm.
And despite going to an average school in a small town and stuff, the fact that I mean the reason that I've been able to do things, I think it somehow somewhere comes from the self-belief he instilled in me at some point. And my inclination towards education clearly comes from him. My desire to do something in small town comes from me growing up in Pathankot. All of this, of course, is true in hindsight. It wasn't evident growing up, but I'm sure there are seeds which got sown then.
Yeah, of course. I mean, the one of the things I end up saying, given my limited view of the world, is while the opportunity that's available to people might be skewed, I genuinely think potential is uniformly distributed. It's just that different people, some people have the ovarian lottery and they end up with different kinds of opportunities. But intrinsic potential, I think it just needs to be, people just need the inspiration, right? It could come from your father or somebody else. I was recently seeing this movie 12th Fail with my kids. I don't know if you got a chance to see it.
Yeah, it's an amazing
Uh,
movie.
and yeah, I think they just sometimes if and that in that case the inspiration came from another of a police officer, right? So
True.
you never know what triggers. Um, Moving forward, Sumeet, I think clearly we were together at IIMA. You joined PNG. You were there for a while. I think after that is when I found some of your transitions very interesting, right? So can you, I think, I don't want to sort of belabor the sort of the traditional pathways, right? So I think that's often well understood. But talk to us about maybe the key inflection points, let's say post PNG to today. And if you could just expand on each of those transition phases, what was your frame of mind? How did you make choices and how did you get here?
So I think in early years of PNG, I learned a lot, and I loved handling like small neglected businesses and turning them around because there was a lot of autonomy to do what I
Hmm.
wanted.
Hmm.
But at some stage, work became repetitive because I moved to a bigger brand, and for some, this would have been aspirational because you get a lot of attention. For me, it became very boring because there were global templates to follow, there were global guidelines to follow,
Hmm.
and I started wondering like, what am I doing? Where am I adding value? How am I making this world a better place? So then I did the unthinkable because most people would be in the hurry to get promoted. I took a sabbatical just to figure out what I wanted to do, and I moved
This
back.
was how many years in into PNG?
This was I was sixth year, I think, of being 2005. I took a sabbatical. I joined PNG in '99.
Hmm.
And I was in Singapore, so I came to India for 6 months. I traveled around the country. I taught, I consulted a few companies. I visited a lot of schools with my dad. And I
And
got
what was
clear.
the trigger for the sabbatical? I just want to sort of pause
I
this and
was just
expand
not
this.
having fun. Like I
Hmm.
see every day I would ask myself, what am I doing with my life? Where am I adding value?
Hmm.
How is
Hmm.
my being in this world making it a better place? And that was the question that was not
Hmm.
being answered, and I wasn't having fun. So I thought, and I didn't know what else I would do. So I thought, let me just take the time to dabble and try some things and figure out like what did I want to do? Like where would the gladness of my heart lie? Uh,
Hmm. And PNG was okay with it because very often large corporations don't have that
yeah.
flexibility to offer a sabbatical, right?
I think in
It's
that
either.
regard, PNG. See,
Hmm.
I've also realized that if you're doing well, then people
Hmm.
are willing to extend. So sometimes I feel that people think too much about what they don't want to do, and that robs them of the ability to do well in what they're currently doing. Because if you do well in what you're currently doing, then people are willing to take a bet on you.
Hmm.
So thankfully, I was doing well, and when I asked, they were like, and I asked that I want to leave because I was just unhappy, and they
Hmm.
said no, stay. Then I asked, can I take some time off, and then my manager made it happen. So I'm eternally grateful for that opportunity.
Lovely. And you and Smita, were you married at that time?
We were married. Yeah, I
Okay.
took a sabbatical. I came here, and then she took like a holiday for 2 months
Okay.
to join. But yeah,
It was largely your sabbatical. Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
it was largely my sabbatical. I think the one thing I got out of the sabbatical was I got
Hmm.
clear that education and teaching was where I could work even if I didn't earn anything. I mean, I just had so much fun. I could see that this is what I wanted to do.
And where
Uh,
did you teach? Just to get specific, when you came back
yeah,
in
so
that regard?
I was one of our batchmates, Shiv.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
used to teach at some MBA colleges in Pune. So he
Yes.
got me to teach marketing as a visiting faculty in two of those colleges, and another gig. So I at one point was teaching three classes, different classes, marketing, because that is what I was doing in PNG. While I had a lot of fun, I realized that post grad is too late. The basic plumbing
Hmm.
is done, and I realized that is not. I mean, I was having fun, but I wasn't being able to create impact. Then my father had retired by then, and he used to be working with a chain of schools in Punjab for their improvement. And I started traveling with him to those schools. And in that journey, what occurred to me was that, we used to play games like dumb charades, Pictionary, this and that. And I was like, if how can we bring these games into these kids learning, because they don't seem to be having fun while learning. I was sitting in those classrooms and the kids were bored out of their mind. So I created a curriculum where we could assess their learning through games.
This is for what
Middle
grade
school.
are you? Middle school.
Middle
Okay.
school, 6th, 7th, 8th. And I created this with Smita because Smita had taken a break by then. And then we offered it to 4 schools, and we took 20 kids out on this summer camp called Beyond Books to see what happens. So, and people were, I think because of my dad, they trusted that these guys would do something good.
And this was conceptualized from scratch, huh? The
Yeah.
summer.
I was sitting in the classroom. I was like, yeah, they're having this. It's so boring, and we used to all play these games as adults. And I was like, can I bring these games to these kids and help them learn through them? I mean, it was just an idea. Then we pulled out all NCRT books of middle school math and science and social studies, picked out the learning outcomes, designed clues for those games around it, and took these 20 kids to Dalhousie
For how long?
for a week.
Wow.
And at
Just
the
the
end
two
of
of
the
you.
week,
You
these
didn't
kids
have
didn't
staff.
want to go back.
You were still in sabbatical at that time.
I was still in sabbatical. Yeah. So me, Smita, my dad, and my mom, 4 of us took. My mom is also a teacher, so the 4 of us took them. They stayed at a place, and when at the end of the week, their parents came to pick the kids didn't want to go, and there was a lot of Rona Dhona crying. But I just had such a good time. I can't, and life has come full circle. One of those kids has joined us in
Wow. Wow.
imagine.
How phenomenal. Huh.
It's crazy. So yeah, I mean, I just had a lot of, I was like, this is what I'm going to do. I just want to make learning better because the kids had so much fun. They learned a lot. We had so much fun. So yeah, I was clear. This is what I want to do. I think that was the transition from out of PNG then. I mean,
So
I
you just
had to
went.
go back to PNG after sabbatical. They called me. They said it's a really good assignment. I went there, but I couldn't last more than a year. I just then quit.
Acha. Acha, you came, took the sabbatical. There was a very clear pathway ahead. Went back within a year.
I went back because we hadn't earned enough to do what we loved, even if we didn't, if we didn't earn in, right. So we had read that book, Rich Dad Poor Dad. So there was a number we had to hit. We didn't hit that number eventually, but yeah, I mean, I went back after my sabbatical, thinking I will do this for 2 more years, but I couldn't last more than a year. Then I just quit.
Understood. And then you came back and
I was wanted to come back to India to start something on my own. Then somebody who I knew that I wanted to do something in education. So he connected me to Subhash Chandra. Then Subhash Chandra offered me to run his education company, and I felt that that's not a bad thing to do because I would be able to learn it and make impact at a scale which I wouldn't be able to do myself. So then I joined ZLearn in 2007 end.
correct. And then talk to us about then from then.
Yeah, and ZLearn, I mean, I learned a lot about education, the business of education. I think I was able to execute a lot of my ideas because ever since I knew it was education in 2005, I was reading a lot. So I had formed some ideas on what we should be doing. So I was able to put them into action. And I think in the preschools and schools, we did a lot of good stuff. I think the 5 years in Z were great. I mean, we were able to get the company listed. It was commercially very successful. Learning outcomes in those preschools and schools were really strong. I exited ZLearn on a matter of principle because there was some disagreement on how to deal with people, and I think it came to a point where I had to choose what I believed in my values versus continuation. So I then left. It wasn't on a good note, but I felt that was the right thing to do.
And meanwhile, just to understand, Smita was still continuing in PNG back in India.
Yeah, so yeah, the parallel track is that the day I decided to leave PNG, 2 days later we realized that we were expecting our first child. So then I was like, have I made the right decision? And I was in two minds because PNG was, of course, wanting me to stay. And I think at that time, Smita stepped up and said, I think you should do what you want to. And Yeah, I mean, I think without her backing, I don't think I would have been able to do it because it was a big step.
Hmm.
Uh, the
And she was
decision
in Singapore at that time, right?
we were in Singapore. So the
Hmm.
decision to move back, uh, then we said, okay, let's just go all in because we wanted to, of course, be together
Hmm.
while Zoya was born. So we moved back to India. I joined Z. She continued with the PNG, but then we had Zoya. After maternity leave, she went back, joined PNG, but then she felt that
Hmm.
uh, PNG wasn't really giving her enough reason to be away from Zoya.
Hmm.
So she left.
Hmm.
And then we had Ane. So then 2010, after Ane, Smita started to figure out what she wanted to do, and she uh, saw how much fun I was having in education. So then she started a non-profit in education, where
Hmm.
she was working with the municipal corporation schools in Bombay.
Got it. And I think I remember coming to a office on Linking Road or Khar. I think she was probably operating out of her father's office or something. Was it
Yeah,
that
that was
organization?
after I left Z. So after I left
Okay.
Z,
Okay.
basically, I didn't leave Z on a good note. So I was
Hmm.
consumed by some sense of incompletion about the Z saga, and
Hmm.
I felt that I had to leave the past to where it belonged and really create a
Hmm.
clearing for the future. So I went for Vipassana in 2012 after Z. And when I came back from Vipassana, I became clear about two things that I wanted to do something on my own. And now I wanted to take excellent education to small towns and underserved. I think that became clear because Vipassana was a very intense experience, and I got in touch with some things that maybe I had pushed
Hmm.
to the back end.
Hmm.
So when I came back from Vipassana, then I told Smita that this is what I would like to do, but what do you want to do? She said, let's do it together. So that's when we set up Lead.
Wow. I think we've sort of been in touch over the years, Sumeet, and one thing that really inspires me is just how together both of you are. As when you see a husband and wife as co-founders, really breathing the mission and the vision and everything they do, it's really inspiring. So it's wonderful. And I think just maybe the last episode before we move to the other themes, even Lead, I remember that being a little bit structured as a not-for-profit initially. And I'm curious about. I think there was a transition from maybe if I may, I'm not sure if I'm framing this right, but from a sort of a social impact kind of an organization to a sort of for-profit impact-driven organization. Can you talk to us a little bit about
Yeah.
that
No, sure.
transition?
See, I think the background is, I mean, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad in 2004. And I remember we went for a walk and I told Smita, like, how much do we need before we can start doing what we love? And
Hmm.
we knew that, if we have kids, we will have two kids. Uh, so we added up kids, their education, and we had a fairly simple lifestyle, all of that, and said, I think if we once we hit this number, at least I was clear. I want to quit and do what I want to do. I didn't want to work
Hmm.
for
Hmm.
money. So, and then what happened was during my sabbatical, I realized that it's not difficult to earn money if you want, right? I mean,
Hmm.
the kind of experiences we've had, there are enough people who want to pay for it. So then I thought that we don't even have to wait till we hit this number. We can do it earlier. Uh, so when I left Z, we were like, I think we have enough now for our kids' education and for the current lifestyle. So even if we don't make any money out of this, we'll be fine. We should do this because we want to do it and not worry about when will we hit this number, that number, and stuff. So we set up Lead, and Smita had run a non-profit, so she was also clear that she didn't want to run a non-profit because it had the kind of talent you attract is very different.
Hmm.
So we said, of course, we are going to set it up as a company, but I don't think we have a goal that this is the revenue we want to hit or this is the number. We just want to solve this one problem, which is how do we get excellent education to all kids? I mean, that's what we wanted to do. And even if we don't earn any money, it's fine because our basics had been taken care of. So
Hmm.
that's how Lead got set up. We started with one school, then we opened five more schools, and then once those schools started doing well, then we got into this expansion phase. But when we began, the goal was clear, but the path wasn't.
Hmm. Hmm. And what is it today? Maybe just to bring the listeners up to date with the current shape of your vision.
Yeah, so from 2012 to 2017, we basically ended up by starting first one school and then 5 schools of our own, which we still run. And today we serve 9,000 schools.
So you moved from sort of running the school to taking the operating
Yeah,
system
so
to.
what happened was my dad used to say this. He said once that, you have this divine discontentment with the status quo.
Hmm.
These are big words. He was an English professor. Of course, he used to say these things, but some things
Divine
have stuck with
discontent.
me. So 2016, 17, and we were running these 5 schools. And again, most of our realizations are on walks. So me and Smita were walking, and I was like, yeah, even if we continue on this journey in our lifetime, we're going to get to some 40, 50 schools.
Hmm.
Are you going to be happy with that level of impact? I'm not going to be happy. I want to make impact at a larger scale. And she was like, yeah, I think we should. And then we realized that capital is not coming to people who are running schools, because we were running
Hmm.
affordable schools, right? And
Hmm.
people who are running very high fee schools, they are
Hmm.
sitting on much larger margins. At the same time, the same friend I'm meeting tomorrow, boxer,
Hmm.
his family was running a school, and they said, "We've heard a lot of good things about your system. Can we use your system in our school?" So I was like, Smita, yaar, maybe we can take this system to more schools, because ultimately, if we want to improve quality of education, why do we have to run the school? There are
Hmm.
already so many schools who are
Hmm.
struggling. Let's just see if this system is of value to them. So we said in the first year, we'll try to reach out to 10 schools and see if they want it. And we went out and tried to raise a small round, because we needed money to reach out to those schools. So very surprisingly, 30 schools accepted in the first year.
Wow.
And we were like, okay, there is something clearly here. I think after that we just doubled down. From 30 we went to 150, we went to 600, we went to 1600, and now it's then 3000. Then we acquired the Pearson company. Now it's 9,000. So it's just kind of, after that,
Wow.
snowballed over 5 years.
And all these schools are in tier two, tier three towns, or are there some in cities as
I
well?
think the 3,000 that lead targets are 85-90% in tier 2, 3, 4 towns.
Hmm.
Pearson, of course, has a slight skew towards higher fee schools, but majority of the schools where the lead system is working is in small towns.
Hmm. Hmm. Hey, lovely, Sumeet. I wanted to, now that we've sort of done a sweep of your journey across time, I wanted to move to some of the other themes. One place where I think I mentioned this to you as well, where I'm eternally grateful to you for, is introducing me to the Landmark Forum sometime many years back. I think in a way that put me on a journey of self-awareness, and in a way started a chain reaction which got me to move away from search to doing what I do. And I think I feel what I do now is much more aligned with who I am. So eternally grateful. And I think even in the way you mentioned the transition from Z to the next step, you said it in passing, very in a rushed way, clearing. You had to go, you went to Vipassana, did a clearing, and you moved on. But it's such a profound thing, right? I tell people, if you want to write something new on the whiteboard, sometimes you need to erase what's on the board and then start writing. But I think more broadly, talk to us a little bit about your journey of self-awareness, Sumeet, maybe from your childhood and some of the other things you might have done.
I don't know how, but I think there is a sense instilled in me. I mean, and I haven't completely unpacked. Maybe it also comes from my dad, but with whatever happens in my life, I feel is my responsibility. And I don't blame
Hmm.
others or circumstances. And in any situation, I'm focusing on, okay, so what do I need to do? When Stephen
Hmm.
Covey calls it, right, the circle of influence. My dad used to say, don't focus कि उसने क्या किया, focus कि तुम्हारी duty क्या है.
Hmm.
That sense. So I lost my dad in December of 2009, uh,
Sorry to hear that.
and uh, and I lost him to cancer. He was with us, so I was ridden with guilt and remorse for some time, right? And I just felt that, did I do enough? Could I have done something else? And I was just caught up in that, and it was a very low phase for me. So I began to look for ways to cope.
Hmm.
I went for therapy, and then somebody told me about Landmark Forum,
Hmm.
and I went there, and I just became aware of all the disabling patterns and the blind spots that were running my life.
Hmm.
And once I
Hmm.
tasted that power of being aware, I never
Hmm.
wanted to, live this unthinking default life that you just kind of
Hmm.
with the flow. I wanted to live an intentional life in terms of, okay, so what do I want to do, what is the impact I want to make, what is the value I want to create, what is the, and then Vipassana followed once when the Z-Learn incident happened. Uh, so I've just kept up that practice because I feel that in any situation, if I'm aware with what is happening inside me, uh,
Hmm.
then I'm able to be in control of what is happening outside me.
Hmm.
A lot of it has to be internal. So I think that, again, I would say I'm fortunate that these opportunities have come,
Hmm.
and I've seen that they have worked for me, and then just continuing that practice has really really helped. Yeah.
Hmm. Is there an ongoing practice you have? Either
Yeah, see now the place I'm in is that I'm able to catch myself.
hmm.
The two emotions that are very debilitating are anger and fear, right? Uh,
Hmm.
and and nowadays fear is more about our identity than any physical fear. So just
Hmm.
becoming aware that, okay, this is what is happening, and
Hmm.
then having a simple mechanism to overcome it is actually very helpful. So, and it doesn't take more than 5 breaths or 5 seconds of mindfulness to know this is happening and then snap out of it or bounce back. So I think that's the practice.
Very lovely. Yeah. Very simply put, but takes years to get. In the sense, it's I guess an ongoing pursuit. And the other question I had on self-awareness was in my work, I noticed very often, and going back to Landmark Forum, one of the things that really stayed with me was actually in the first session, the facilitator, I think it was a gentleman called Gurmeet Singh, if I'm not mistaken. He drew a pie chart and he said, what you know about yourself is like some 2%. And he shared it and he said everything else is unknown. And in the Landmark Forum, very often the popcorn will pop in the 98%, not in the 2%. And that was like profound. I didn't realize the wisdom then, but later in the work, I've come to realize that very often one is sort of, if I may, meditating our way to self-awareness. The other is a little bit of taking in feedback and sort of listening to the whispers. Very often, feedback also doesn't come in loud voices, especially as a founder of a large organization. I'm curious to understand. Sometimes because of the power dynamics, it's sometimes hard to get true feedback. What's been your journey of processing outside in feedback, not just from the organization, but in general,
I think you rightly said that. Uh, I have come to realize that very often we know the truth, but we
Hmm.
don't want to listen to it. There is almost always a voice in our head which we sometimes call gut or intuition, which we
Hmm.
don't pay heed to because we are just so caught up in managing our external perception or managing our fear or wondering about what others would think of us, and we just shove our, like, the voice in the head on the side.
Hmm.
And I have learned that if I listen to it, uh, more often than not, it guides
Hmm.
you in the right direction. Like if you have, for example, uh, a bad hiring, right?
Hmm.
Or if you've made a wrong decision, or if somebody has made a proposal very forcefully uh, in a large group, and you agree, but and in the gut you know there is something wrong, then I have learned to just follow that okay, there is
Hmm.
something not making sense. Let me just now try to figure out why is it not making sense,
Hmm.
versus
Hmm.
saying ke nahi yaar, it's okay, some. So just listening to that voice and trusting your intuition uh, is one way I have found, which basically ensures that things are real. You don't get caught
Hmm.
up because there's a lot of ways in which you can get caught up, because,
Hmm.
like you rightly said, after you achieve a certain scale, there are enough people who want to surround you, uh, and then you do lose touch with reality.
Hmm.
Uh, but keeping your just sensibility open to listening to when that soft voice says and following where it is leading you is very
Hmm.
important.
Very powerful. If I may relate to that, sometimes, in my journey in the last 7, 8 years as a coach on a sounding board, initially I would get taken in by the title and the role and the sort of, if I may say, the prestige of the assignment. But after some time, you start listening to say, "Yeah, all that is great, but I'm not enjoying the conversation." So
Yeah.
I've started leaning into saying, "Yeah, after the first couple of meetings, am I getting energy from the conversation?" and then sort of trying to bring that into the decision mix as well. So very well said. And it takes time. And as you rightly say, we may not have language for it, but very often the heart speaks to us. It's our
True.
job to pause and decipher what it's trying to say.
And one of the coping mechanism, and I have had imposter syndrome growing up, and I don't think one can fully recover from it. But what I've realized is that very often हम अपने आप को समझा लेते हैं, like we know it is not right, but because we don't have the self confidence, we tend to listen to a voice of authority or somebody else and stuff, and later we realize, yeah, we knew this, why did we not? And now I've decided not, and I'm not successful at all fully, but in some instances I'm able to say okay, it's okay. If for example I don't feel like going for this gathering, people might think that I am being asocial or stuff, but it's okay because maybe this is where the gladness of my heart is, and it's okay. The moment you start saying it's okay to yourself a lot more versus saying Arey, why does it happen with me, Arey, why am I like this and stuff, you start to be in a good space.
Yeah, very true. Goes back to your point about taking responsibility, right? Once you
Yeah.
take responsibility, take full responsibility, right?
Ah.
And and then solve for resonance. कि यार ठीक है, I'm sleeping well at night, and I'm
Exactly.
on my terms,
Yeah.
you know. And I was talking to an investor earlier today, actually. He said, यार, my fund might fail, but I will go to sleep saying कि ठीक है यार, मेरा conviction था. I played that game according to my conviction, and I sort of whatever, I fell flat, but at least I know that I didn't play somebody else's game. I played my game,
My
right?
game.
So
Yeah.
I think very true. The other piece I wanted to explore, Sumeet, was see, you have two young kids. I think the cusp of going to college. Both you and Smith are co-founders. And one of the at least hypotheses I have is all of us need to have space for doing something we love, right, in our life. Some people are lucky to find it in their work, and in a way, and what you love, in a way, this in simple way that I try to understand it is it energizes you rather than drains you. Tell us a little bit about how you found space for what you love, either in the work you do or otherwise. Give us a sense of the various things you do, what all energizes you.
I think at this point I'm not doing anything which drains me. My work and my love are the same, so that's a blessing. I just feel that it is really a blessing, and for you also to first know what you love doing and then being able to do it.
Very true.
And then
if I may come in briefly, one of my guests actually said one of the wrapping up questions I ask is, yeah, what does the term play to potential mean to you? He said the answer is in the title. You can't work to your potential. You can only play to your potential, right? It has to feel like play. Right?
It has to feel like play. And the wonderful thing is that then to be also have someone pay you for it, and it's just like
It's a blessing.
this is too good to be true. So yeah,
Very
I
true.
have in the last 11 years, ever since we started Lead, I don't recall a day where I have like, Arey yaar, I just feel that the day is not enough. 11 p.m. or 12 p.m., 12 midnight when I'm going to bed, I'm like, oh, there's so much more to do. When I wake up, 1 hour before I wake up, I think I'm buzzing with ideas, and 1 hour after I go to bed, there are still. So it's just so all-consuming. So yeah, I
The
think
one thing, if I may probe there, Sumeet, is very often I see people who are passionate about a mission, but the mechanics of getting to it, for example, teaching is one thing, but building a school, dealing with investors, negotiating, dealing with attrition, firing, hiring, sometimes the day-to-day elements of work can be draining while the mission is energizing. How have you how's that played out in your journey?
this I mean, I don't know whether you and me had this conversation, but with a lot of friends we've had this conversation about journey, destination, right? What is more important? I've realized that there's a third element, right, which is your partner. So I think it's at the intersection of these three things. It's neither of these three things are complete by themselves. The journey is important, the destination is important, and your partner is very important. And I honestly, whether it is hiring somebody, firing somebody, making a tough decision, doing the so-called boring stuff, all of it is in the service of what we want to achieve, right? So
Hmm.
I don't see them as separate layers. I see them
Hmm.
as threads of the same fabric. So
Hmm.
therefore, one doesn't have its existence without the whole.
Hmm.
Therefore, it has not hit me. And then having Smita is just makes it very joyful. Like we
Hmm.
were traveling to Delhi, and I told her that when we are traveling for work, after 8 p.m. it stops feeling like work.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think I keep saying that it's difficult to be so fortunate, and I think I am.
And it's wonderful, man. Wonderful. As I said, the degree of resonance that I see between the two of you is really inspiring. And and in your experience, what does it take to make that work? If I may, slightly changing topics, let's say co-founders who are spouses, if you had to sort of draw the curtains, open the curtains rather.
If I'm honest with you, I think the best thing I've done was to pursue Smita and get her as my life. I mean, she's the single biggest reason that we've been able to do well in the four things in our life, and the four things are, I think, lead our kids, us, and our parents.
Hmm.
Uh, and
Hmm.
our parents are truly our parents. I mean, it's not like her parent, my parent, and I don't think it was possible without her. And lead would not be at this scale and impact without her. Uh,
Hmm.
so, in that sense, yeah, that was one good decision I made,
Hmm.
and it worked out. And the reason I think it is successful, if you ask me, because a lot of people actually have asked, because it seems like people feel that being partners in life and co-founders is not easy. For us, I think there are three things that actually worked. One is we love each other a lot, and we are very good friends. So there is absolute trust and no insecurities.
Hmm.
In fact, we don't crave company beyond each other, and that might be like mushy and syrupy, but that's true. I mean,
Hmm.
that's how it is with us. So we are very good friends.
We are still in the Valentine's Day zone, so I think
Oh
it's
yeah,
good.
that's true. So that I think is the first factor. Second, I think we respect each other a lot for our strengths as both a person and professional. And it happened
Hmm.
because me and Smita worked with each other in PNG before we
Hmm.
actually got into a relationship, right? So I know what she's good at. She knows what I'm good at, and thankfully, it is very complementary. Very complementary.
Hmm.
So that helps because love sometimes I feel is not enough for you to work together. You also have to respect the other person for what they
Hmm.
bring to the table. uh,
Hmm.
that is the second thing. The third thing actually is the other dimension which actually has come in because of our self-awareness work, is that both of us are also acutely aware of our own shortcomings. So we
Hmm.
are aware of the fact that we're very different people. Early in our relationship, it used to be expecting the other to change. Then it
Hmm.
moved to accepting the other, and now it is at a place where we're celebrating our differences. कि यार अरे ये तो तुम better करते हो. Like it's at a level where if you know you're not good at something and somebody else is better, uh, then that pull gets created.
Got it.
So I think these are three things which is really maybe the magic is at the intersection of love, respect, and being aware of your own shortcomings.
Hmm.
Uh, but
Hmm.
since you asked, I think that's how. Now, it's not all always great. I mean, there are challenges, there are tension, stresses, but those are what normally happens. That unmet expectations or unexpected
Hmm.
emotions. The good thing is that we are able to bounce back quickly. We don't
Hmm.
wallow in it for long enough.
Hmm. And I mean, on one hand, you're solving the future of thousands, if not millions of kids, right? And on the other hand, you have two kids at home. How do you, given the intensity of life as founders, how do you, what's been your, how have you ensured, you know, uh, time with family, with the kids especially? Because Smita took care as part of running lead, and even otherwise, I guess there's enough overlap. Curious about the kids portion.
I think what has helped is that we have decided that we are co-founders not only at work but also at home. So it's not like Smita has to do 1.5 and I have to do zero point 0.5. It is,
Hmm.
I don't think it is 1 1. It is maybe zero point 0.9 and 1.1 on her side. But still, I think uh, that actually ensures that we are able to quickly like maneuver very quickly. I mean, there's a nice flow that if, for
Hmm.
example, there is something to be done at Zoya or Ane's end, and Smita is busy with something, then I would come in, and if I am busy, she would come in. So there is uh, that flow between personal professional
Hmm.
is very easy, and because we don't see that home is Smita and work is me, and yeah, that has helped. Second, I think what has helped is that we have reduced the things that we are focusing on. Like for example, some like I told you earlier, somebody told me some years back that there are four chambers in your heart, so you can do four things in life, and
Hmm.
you should be if you're intentional about it, then you can do them well without guilt.
Hmm.
Currently, those four things are lead our kids, the two of us, and our parents in that order.
Hmm.
So therefore, we are doing very few things, just those four. But hopefully, we are able to do them well, and then we don't do others. And now we are able to not do others and say no to those without guilt.
Hmm.
But yeah, that I think has helped.
That's very powerful here. I think time is finite, and it's very easy to clutter the plate with many things,
Yeah,
and then feel guilt and or feel not having time or being stressed or snapping. All those. So that's profound. Four things I'll remember. Now I mean, I'm just reconciling with another four things that I learned from another gentleman called Stu Friedman. He talks about four things: self, work, home, and community. Right? I think work and home is like the first circle, and community is like the bigger circle. So and I was just curious. There wasn't any self in that. So I
I
was
think
wondering if
the third chamber of us
is
is that, and we kind of, you're right, we move in and out because there are fire gazing times, which is for me, and then there is us. Community,
hmm,
I think, is missing today,
hmm.
if you ask me, because
See,
it is just work,
hmm,
and maybe work is
hmm,
also community, but there's work, there's kids, there's us, and there's parents because they're at a certain age.
hmm.
But those are the four things beyond
Even
which,
community, to be fair, the way he defines it is about making a difference beyond your circle, which is work, colleagues, or home. So
okay,
by the nature of your mission,
yeah,
I think
maybe it
in a
gets
way,
covered.
you're ticking that box. Maybe social relationships and sort of some of those things, probably time. Maybe
Yeah.
that's a different discussion. Uh, uh, the other theme I'm curious about is how people's aspiration emerges over time, right? There was a time when my aspiration was to do well in a certain exam or to get this job and this and that. And then as life evolves, it takes a shape of its own across the four chambers, if I may, right? So can you talk a little bit about how that's also evolved over time for you?
Uh, I think growing up till I went to PNG, I would
Hmm.
say in my life, I went through the first 16 years of bliss, where everything was, I think, easy because I was doing well in college, in school, getting a lot of recognition. So there was no
Hmm.
issue. Then I went through a period of 7 years maybe where I felt a very high sense of inadequacy. So it had to be overcome with wanting recognition and stuff. Uh,
Hmm.
then I think when I met Smita,
Hmm.
uh, that went away because when you get love, you also get acceptance, right?
Hmm.
uh, and then you feel that a lot of the things that you are fighting for were actually stupid, not worth it, right? Because you are okay as you are, you didn't have to be someone else.
Hmm.
And a lot of the insecurity and issue is that only, right? The gap between what you pretend to be and what you are really are, and the moment you become okay with who you really are, it just goes away.
Hmm.
And love
Hmm.
actually does a really good job of getting you comfortable with who you are. At least in my
Hmm.
case, it happened. So after we went to Singapore, we got married. Some of those personal issues went away, and then I started wondering about, okay, so from a sense of unfairness to a sense of purpose, like what,
Hmm.
and that is where the PNG journey kind of got into. Okay, what am I really doing here and stuff.
Hmm. Hmm.
I think since then it has only been focused on how do I leave this world a better place than I inherited. And this
Hmm.
started from 2003 It began as a question, and since then, I think what has happened is that I found my calling in education. So now it's been 17, 18 years I've nursed this dream of transforming Indian education. And I just find the idea that, 270 million students are not going to grow up to their full potential. I find it heartbreaking. They spend 8 hours a day in school. So that nursery, that playground is so full of possibilities, right? I think that is the aspiration that has remained now for the last 18 years. Of course, the scale of that aspiration has expanded. It's like, I think we spoke about this when you go on a hike, as you reach one peak, then you say, "Arey, there's another peak and there's
Yes.
another peak." So that
Yes.
is happening now.
Yes.
And I feel that going deeper is actually making the opportunity seem wider. But yeah, since the last 18 years, the aspiration is to just see if I can do something about how the kind of education kids get and how can they can reach their true potential.
And I loved what you said, right? I think one of the themes I've noticed is the notion of purpose is often emergent, right? It's not on day one, you don't quite know this is my grand purpose. Very often, I tell people, asking somebody what's your purpose is a bit like asking a 6-year-old, beta tumko kya banna hai, right?
Kya banna
It's as challenging as that, or
Yeah.
as bizarre as that question, right? So, can you expand on that? I mean, back to the trek metaphor, right? When you get to a certain goalpost, you see the next peak, and so on. Can you talk to us a little bit about, even within this world of education, how has the nature of the aspiration shifted?
Yeah, I think even if I would like to take a step back and first, I don't know whether you watched the movie Tamasha.
I haven't actually.
You must watch it. And I resonate every time I watch the movie. I cry because I resonate so well with the movie. And I think the whole idea is that, again, going back to the I thought of listening to the voice, because it tells you where the gladness of your heart is. It tells you, but you are so consumed by society's pressure, expectations, your own treadmill, comparison with other people and stuff, that you don't listen to it. And for me, I think, again, like I said, fortunate that I could take that sabbatical and then follow where it was leading me. And to me, the biggest switch was that just making this a decision that I don't care whether I earn money or not. I don't care whether this much is enough. Now I want to do what I love, and even if I don't earn money, I'll be okay. And I've found that when you don't chase money, it comes to you.
Completely agree. Completely agree. The metaphor in my head is that of a butterfly, right? You can't catch it, but when you sit and meditate, it sort of lands on your shoulder, right? I think.
Yeah.
You've used the term 3 or 4 times already. I'm curious. Gladness of my heart. What do you mean by that?
See, in PNG, I went through a period where I wasn't happy doing what I was doing. I was doing well. So, but I don't know. You've heard of the idea of flow, right? When you sense of time, you're just doing it. You're having so much fun. That is where the gladness of your heart lies, right? When you have like the Beyond Book summer camp is alive in my memory. We had so much fun. So I think once you get it, then you don't want to lose it, because you're like, why would I do anything else? So yeah, I just wish more people find it.
Very true. Very true. And also this, I also personally relate to this point of, if I may, I didn't grow up in a small town like you did, but coming from Chennai, when I met people from Bombay and Delhi, and some of our classmates have been to World Debating Championships, when you sit in the same classroom, you say, by the time you raise your hand, some 10 points have been made. So the point about inadequacy, I think finally I've come to realize that first we need to feel adequate with ourselves, and then it's possible to come alive. Very often in the journey of just proving one's adequacy, just life passes by.
True.
And then they're very powerful. The other theme I'm curious about is just when I look at people who are thriving, there's an element of investment in, if I may say, intangible assets, right? It's not just about that there are sprinters and there are marathoners. And there's very clearly, when you look around, you see some people who are huffing and puffing, and you know that it's not sustainable, something's going to give. But some people, they they live life in a way which seems that they can play the long game with this approach. How have you, and when I say personal, if I may say personal balance sheet, whether it's skills, whether it's your health, whether it's when you've already spoken a little bit about inner work, talk to us a little bit about how you ensure that this stays a marathon or not a sprint that consumes you.
I haven't thought about it in those terms, but now that you ask, see, I think one thing is that when something bothers me, my natural gravitation is towards thinking about what can I do about it. And then that points me to, okay, so I need to learn something about it. Like when I got into education, I read a lot about it. I went to Harvard Graduate School of Education for a course. I must have visited some 200-300 schools all over the country, wherever.
In the
like
US, huh?
Sir who runs, across the country.
Wow.
and even internationally, because I just wanted to know what does excellence look like before I can do something about it. So what I've realized is that whenever I'm trying to do something which I don't know, I don't assume that I know. I just get in, learn to figure out what excellence looks like, and then try to contextualize it to whichever place. So I think that has helped. Now today we've got a model, but like I'm always traveling and visiting schools, sitting in classrooms, observing teachers or even teaching, because that keeps me grounded to know
That's
what
where
is really
rubber meets
happening
the
in the
road.
classroom. Because ultimately the magic is in the classroom. We can design whatever sitting in Bombay. Ultimately, if it doesn't translate in the teacher-student interaction or in the student's experience, it's not going to make a difference. So just continuously thinking about how things can be better, and just working towards it, I think is definitely one area. And the second area is I also keep playing out alternate versions of the future in my mind, and keep preparing for it. Like if AI has come in, what will happen? Or if homeschooling, what will happen? Keep playing out alternate scenarios of the future and keep preparing for it, so that that's where innovation and learning kind of comes from. So and I don't know whether it means it's I think of it as a marathon. I think it my sense is it comes from the dissatisfaction with the status quo. Just keep on focusing on how it can be better, and then learning and doing it.
I guess given the size of the problem, right? It's easy to sometimes get burnt out when you take on a problem of this magnitude and scale. There's no end to how much you push yourself. So how do you, I guess the question I'm asking is, how do you ensure that your health is not compromised in this process, right? A very simple question, right?
3 years back, I think, again, one of those walks, me and Smita were discussing, and I said, I don't see this problem getting solved in our lifetime. Because 270 million kids will get to 50 million maybe, if we are lucky. So I think now our focus should shift on building an organization which will continue to do this work after us. And some of the principles we've learned in Build to Last or Good to Great, whatever, are very fundamental. So how do we really think about culture and values and in the organization? Because when we are not in the room, people have to be making decisions which will further the mission. Now, the moment you come to that realization, at least when we came to that realization, there was like a burden which got lifted, because what it told us was that our job has shifted from solving the problem to creating the vehicle to solve the problem, and it's a very different mindset suddenly, right? So that I think helped, and then we started working towards it. Now, to a specific point about health and stuff, again, it's about listening to your body. Listen, and I'm wearing this.
I was going to go there.
After COVID, we realized that both me and Smita, and actually our whole leadership team, had become unfit, because we were just sitting. And so 2023, I still have that piece of paper. We made a resolution as a leadership team that, and all of us had teenage kids. So the first resolution was, we'll help our kids find the gladness of their heart.
Wow.
Second was we will become fitter.
Mm.
And then the other three were more organization goals. And then we committed to it. And for the whole year, I think we've just invested in our health to become fitter because we realized that our bodies were telling us that the amount of work and stress we were putting on it was not sustainable. So I think it's about listening to your inner voice, body, and then doing something about it. Because very often we listen, but then we just crib and stop.
Mm. It's interesting you said, I mean, also as a father of two young children, uh, what's your take on getting the kids to find the gladness of the heart? You're an educator and you have kids, so your perspectives are priceless.
I think it's similar to what we did that no kid would know from the beginning.
Mm.
I mean, some might, but very few kids actually know, right? So you've got to expose them to different experiences
Mm.
and then listen carefully where they
Mm.
are they are doing stuff without you telling them to.
Mm.
Because that's where the gladness of heart is, right? If you have to tell them that, oh, you've not attended this class, you've not done your assignment, you've not this, then it means that there is no pull, you're pushing. But when you are telling the kid that, hey, you should go to bed now, stop, then
Mm.
you know that there is flow.
Mm.
So as a parent, I think there are only two jobs. One is exposure, and second is listening. Uh,
Mm.
and then the moment you find the match, you go deep. Now, the interesting thing with kids is with adults, when you go deep, you know you've achieved it. With kids, kids are also changing, so that
Mm.
might not last. So you have to just
Mm.
keep doing it. That's the
Interesting.
additional complexity.
Interesting. The other school of, sorry, we are digressing here, but it's a helpful. Uh, the other school of thought often is sometimes kids also don't know what they like. They have to go through a phase of probably not liking something, and then maybe across the hump lies flow. Do you believe in that school of thought where you need to go through a phase of displeasure or grunt before you see flow on the other side? Is there any merit to that line of thinking?
See, there's a framework in my mind that for a child to be successful, there are some basics that they need.
Hmm.
And I would push the child only if those basics are not there. But
Hmm.
beyond that, I've and I think now all of us have learned that if they don't have their heart in it, they're not going to be doing it to their full potential. I mean, you can. I mean, if Sachin had practiced 100 hours of music, he would have been able to sing, but he would not have become Lata Mangeshkar. So
Hmm.
there is that I'm reading this book called the Blank Slate, and it
Mhm.
50% of it is genes. So you just have to be in a discovery mode,
Stay true to
and
it.
then
Hmm.
the other 40 odd % is parenting, where you have to
Hmm.
do the stuff. So yeah, I don't completely subscribe to that fact.
With you. I mean, I remember reading a book called Range. I don't know if you've read a book called Range, where he talks about Tiger Woods approach and a Roger Federer approach. The crux of what he says, Tiger Woods was playing golf from the age of 3, and just fight mar ke he got to the top. Roger Federer was dabbling with a few things, soccer, ye, wo, skiing, etc. And then around age 11, 12 or whatever, he said, okay, tennis. And then he picked tennis and then he rose to the top. And the crux of the argument he says is if you start at very early, then there's a risk of climbing the wrong tree. You know,
Mm.
the odds of a Tiger Woods are low. You might end up pushing hard and then not seeing flow on the other side. So he was saying, to your point, he was saying exposed to a diverse set of things and then see where there's traction and then double down or
Yeah.
evolve. Uh, got it. Got it. I think just a couple of things before we wrap up, Sumeet. As you know, I'm sort of using flavor as an organizing language, family, love, aspiration, how we think of value and find opportunity and investing in ourselves and relationships. Where in this journey, where have you found tension? You know, I also realize that we can't have everything all the time. So where have you felt the tension in your journey? You briefly were speaking about it before we started recording, but I'd love for you to talk about that.
Yeah, you're right. I think I don't think all the letters of flavor are alive at every point
Yes.
in life. But if I just take the metaphor of a marathon, for you to be able to complete it, some letter has to be alive at some part of
Of
that
course.
marathon. Otherwise, it will not be like a successful marathon. So in my case, like if you ask me today, the relationship letter is not alive. I mean, I know
Hmm.
for a fact that I'm not investing time with my siblings, with my friends, and it is in. I've had to make it intentional for it to be guilt free. Because for some time it was guilt, and I often say that guilt is very dangerous because it gives you the illusion of action without any impact being made. So it's better to not do it. But uh, and then in the beginning, early years, family wasn't really big because I was trying to find myself, so I had to break free. But now, because of my parents, family is back. So yeah, I think you go in and out. Fortunately, the middle part, which is loving what you do, being in tune with your aspiration, value, and investing in yourself. Those things, I've been again fortunate that they have been alive, and maybe they are also the contributing factors where uh, we've been able to last this long pursuing what we love without actually facing any of the issues that we spoke about, whether it is burnout or feeling disciplined. So the F and R, I would say, are a little low at this point, but the other letters are alive, and it that has been different at different points of time.
Of course, and that's at least I believe. At least when look around, I don't see too many people that have ticked everything out at the same time. But finally, it's an act of juggling and prioritizing as we go through life. Just as we wrap up, Sumeet, it's been a wonderful conversation. Uh, if you could be immodest and and talk a little bit about, if I had to say, this conversation or this series of conversations about leading a full life, not just one-dimensional life, right? What's been your approach? What are some things you keep back of your mind as you walk this path so that you lead a full life?
Uh, I I think my learning is that in order for us to lead a full life, the first step is to be okay with who you are, because unless we are at peace with ourselves, you can't find peace outside, right? I think George Bernard Shaw wrote, and my dad used to quote that I myself am hell and I carry hell about me. And it was his way of saying that unless you are at peace with yourself, you're going to make everyone around not be at peace. And I think my journey of discovering what I love and being able to pursue that actually has been lockstep and barrel with my journey of being okay with myself. Because, like I told you, I think this whole overcoming this sense of inadequacy, the feeling that the world is unfair, that the world owes me something. It was very important for me to overcome that, because if you don't have, uh, if you're so consumed with yourself, you don't have space for others. So this clearing that you have to create for others to show up doesn't even exist because it's so full of your fears and anxieties and anger. So in that sense, I think the work on self-awareness on myself has been very instrumental in uh, allowing me the possibility of living a full life. So that was, I think that is one big part, being okay with yourself. Second is just listening to the voice in your head and not being consumed by what the society expects you. Because and I'm sure you would have faced it, but I definitely faced it when I was wanting to make the transition back from Singapore to India.
Yes.
When I was wanting to leave Z and start up Lead, a lot of people who wished well for me thought I was being stupid, and they said as much to me on my sometimes on my face and sometimes behind my back. uh, but I think at that time, uh, knowing that in the long term I will bring them aboard, but in the short term I have to listen to my heart was very important. Because if I had gotten caught up with what my father or mother was saying, my siblings were saying, my friends were saying, I would not have been able to do it. So you got to
Very
listen.
often, and to that point, very often they're extrapolating their anxieties, their fears, or
Could be.
their
Yeah.
ambition for you, whatever, right? Whatever it
Yeah.
is, it's their projection. It's
Exactly.
often can be different from what you have in mind for yourself.
True. And you need to have the confidence that in the long term they will come on board. It's not because at every point in your life everybody doesn't have to be on board because they are at different places. So you just need to have that patience ki, theek hai, and it happens that they frankly finally come on board. So that is the second thing. And I think the third thing is that I believe that in leading a full life, you've got to commit to something bigger than yourself. Because if you are consumed by yourself, it's not a full life, it's a very small life. But if you commit to something bigger than yourself, then your personal issues disappear because there's such a larger thing to go for. Those are the three things that I would say have helped.
Wonderful, man. It's a wonderful synthesis of this conversation. Sumeet, thank you so much for taking the time. It's wonderful to reconnect in this avatar, but I truly enjoyed it and learned a lot from it. Thank you.
Thanks a lot for this. Yeah, I always believe that when we have such conversation, it just forces you to think about things that you do but you don't think about. So in that sense, it's very refreshing to have this conversation. So thanks for doing that.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Thank you.
All right, take care. Yeah.
A couple of things struck me about my conversation with Sumeet. One is the phrase he uses, listen to the gladness of your heart. I find it such a simple statement, but it's such a profound one in terms of playing to our potential. In the book, I outline some of the simple things we can do to cultivate the heart muscle. I notice that very often it's not a listening problem, but the fact that we haven't worked on our heart muscle for us to listen to our heart. The second is the point he makes about not having it all in the context of the flavor framework. Even in the way I describe the framework, it's not about saying we have each of the elements of flavor, F, L, A, V, O, U, and R ticked. That's not the point. It's about being deliberate and intentional about some of the trade-offs and just walking with a sense of purpose and direction and being very intentional. Sumeet is one of the 6 people we've profiled as part of the FLAVOUR-ful Lives series. If you found this conversation useful, you might find some of the other conversations helpful as well. If you want deeper insights on reinventing yourself, doing inner work, listening to your heart, and adapting, and being intentional about some of your choices, do consider picking up the book Play to Potential. The link in the description has details on where you can find the book. Thank you for listening.